Kick off.
Recording has started.
All right, sure. I see a comment on the chat. If you can assist there, please. All right. What was it? Oh, yes. So so we were now talking about the problem, the root cause of the problem. So now the root cause of the problem, it's crucial to also unpack in order to be able to assess or to place the solution. So I think then what we need to do is to ask ourselves, one, what do we think, based on what we have read, it is contributing to idle vehicles and therefore loss of revenue? And what is it that is contributing to? And let's also simplify this, as I was saying, lower vehicle sales. What do you think is contributing to lower vehicle sales? So that we know any solution we come up with, we are then, it then makes sense. Okay, anyone? Who wants to just deal with it? So let's talk about idle vehicles. What is our understanding? Remember here, we are using the facts in this scenario. And I'm going to teach you something on how to be a good scorer of these pervasive marks if something is not in the scenario. All right, tricks, yeah?
Could be lack of disposable income from the communities. I don't know.
You're going outside the scenario. So
Okay.
come back. Yes, so you need to come back. So we are using what they've told us here. Because I'm going to show you how to earn a mark if you are not aligned with the scenario. But we have to first align.
It's due to
for me,
drop
I'm
in demand.
Sorry?
I said it's due to drop in demand for used cars.
No, but what is the result of reduced demand? That's the root cause. Remember, we want the root cause, what to solve.
Rendani, may you please repeat the question, if you don't mind?
So maybe to clarify, rather. So now we are saying that you and I have now come up with these two problems that Leicester is facing. It is the issue that they've got idle vehicles, which are not what? Which are vehicles that are just sitting and therefore resulting in loss of potential revenue. We agreed on that. That's problem number one. And this, we can say, is the problem for the rental division. Then problem number two, we agreed that it's lower vehicle sales. Lower vehicle sales, which is the low inventory one. And this, we are saying that it impacts on the holding cost as well as what? The generation of cash flows. That's the problem. But now, to solve a problem, you need to first understand where it's coming from. Because usually the problem is solved by understanding where it's coming from. If you deal with where it's coming from, then the vehicles will no longer be idle. The vehicles, you'll then be able to sell the vehicles. But what is the problem based on what we have read? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for this line, I think the problem is the cars they are high do, and there are many reasons that could be the cause. For example, maybe the cars are not even working. Maybe there's an issue with it. That is why it's high do. And at times, I think somebody wrote on the chat too, maybe there's too much cars. Like it doesn't is the cars are more than what customers are demanding. Yeah, so
But that's the impact. It's not the problem. So that's the impact. Remember that we have to make a difference, have a difference between the impact and the root cause. The root cause is, why is there even an oversupply? Why do I have an idle vehicle here? What is it that caused this?
We go back to the former because there's reduction in demand for rental.
But why is there a lack of demand? Because we need to know the root cause. Why is there a lower demand?
They said it will be because of like they said the tourists were not, like there's reduction in tourism, and also maybe I said from the scenario we were told that there's reduction in the number of foreign tourists. So it can be a reason, or maybe due to the economic situation downturn. So maybe people are not able to afford it. Yeah, and also maybe their market target, maybe there's a reduction, things like that. Their market share and all that.
But let's not go there. First, let's deal with what is there. So we have to deal with what is given to us. Then I'm gonna talk to you about how do you bring what you are suspecting, because you want to secure the business acumen mark. You want to secure the critical thinking mark. So we're gonna talk about that. So far, you have now applied your analytical thinking to say the problem of idle vehicles is the low number of international tourists. Anything else that is contributing to problem number one? Yeah.
Yes, I've got to. So when she mentioned about the stricter visa requirements, I'm looking also at the fact that specifically on minors. So if you're looking at a family situation, perhaps that were the target markets, maybe traveling as a family, where they could actually have use of the car rentals, as opposed to, for say, single persons could be using a bus to travel, because at the end of the day, if you're traveling with minors, you'd want a situation where the whole family is within one place and they're traveling. So that perhaps is the market. And as of that, the reason would be that now they have these idle cars because of the stricter requirements on those persons traveling with minors.
Okay. Sure. Anything else?
Randani,
Yes.
maybe this is a bit far-fetched, but would the whole working from home thing be one of the reasons that people aren't traveling as much anymore because they're working from home?
I don't know. So we're gonna get to what we believe. First, we need to exhaust the scenario, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because and you're gonna see now why you need to get here, and you're gonna see what examiners want from you. So we have said that idle vehicles now, based on what they've told us, is lower international tourists due to stricter visa regulation. Done. Anything else? leading to idle vehicles.
Yeah, there's also a decrease in local tourism.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, maybe because of purchasing power and all that. I think before this one, they said there's a decrease in local
Before we get there,
tourism.
no. You guys want to tell the examiner what you know, but the examiner gave you information, right? That is either intentionally incomplete, and he wants you to show that you saw the incompleteness of the information. So let's not entertain the examiner with our thoughts as yet. We're going to entertain the examiner there. But at first, I want you to deal with the examiner based on how the examiner presented themselves. So now, what did the examiner say about the reason for the decrease in local tourism?
There doesn't seem to be a reason, yeah.
Yes, there does not seem to be a reason. So that is important. All right, so the basis unknown, right? All right, now problem number 2, the low vehicle sales. What is the reason that the examiners gave us?
He says because of reduction in foreign tourists, if I could remember.
Did he or did they? What did the examiner say is the reason behind low demand for the drop in demand for used vehicles? Nothing. They didn't tell us. No reason provided, right? So this problem-solving technique, it is the one you need to follow. Problems presented, you need to find the root causes. And now, this is how you demonstrate this problem-solving and critical thinking. So, 1, you tell the examiners that the reason, before we enter into this agreement, we need to investigate the reason for what? For the lower sales vehicle, in order to ensure that this arrangement will help us to address this issue. That is the credit. Do you see how it works? Because now the lack of information is not to give you headache, but it is to make you present a solution, to represent your pervasive skills to the examiner. Because you don't want to just jump in when you don't know the problem and start assessing this particular thing. You are just saying that, examiners, let's be clear here. It is not clear what is the reason for the lower sales vehicles. However, this needs to be evaluated, or it needs to be investigated before we consider entering into this agreement with to go. Because we don't want to use this tool to solve the wrong problem. Do you see now what you've done? You have presented an alternative, you have presented a different dimension to the problem. Because no board wants to now give away 1,000 vehicles and realize later that, guys, this thing is not solving this problem we have. Do you understand? Does that make sense? So do you see now how the difference in thinking comes in? Because you are no longer just technical, and trying to get to the right answer. Sometimes communicating that you don't know the answer and the answer has to be found is part of the solution. Do you see this? So you guys are going to be a very different breed of CS, because this is the kind of thinking that you will be embracing much earlier in the journey. This is what is expected. So here we are then saying that the credit or the point will be what? The basis for lower sales vehicles is what? Is unknown and needs to be investigated prior to what? Prior to entering into what? Into the agreement with to go. If you want to then bring those reasons, you then talk about what? It could be X, Y, and so on. But don't just jump into X, Y, and so on. X, Y, and so on could then be how you are securing the business what? The business acumen indicator, where you then tell us what? You then tell us, like for instance, when I saw that, I then just, I raised the point that this was surprising because in a tough economy, it is expected that consumers will consider second-hand vehicles rather than new ones. So that was me. That was what I was saying. So you then what? You then said that you had a view. Your view was like what? This is, however, expected because people's disposable income is lower due to high unemployment and so on. But this is your business acumen. Do you see this? That's an additional credit. So the first one, this will then be your what? This will then be your why, which is what? Which is what is problem solving tool, right? Your problem solving technique. So that is how, yes, sure.
Could it be that they're using Uber and Bolt, so that's why they are not renting cars or buying it?
So, yeah, you see, you're taking it another step. So it could be that, but you are now bringing the external environment into the consideration. But do you see? And at this point, we don't have a right answer. We just want you to be curious enough to say that this to go cannot be the only solution here. But I don't want you to jump into the conclusions without having asked these things of the examiners. Is that making sense?
All right. Sorry, sir, can I ask a question? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying we should ask these questions from the examiners, but I mean, we are also placed underneath like time pressure. So how are we supposed to deal with this too?
Yeah. So the way I've put it, that because the examiner is going to ask you to state the factors to consider before we enter into this agreement, and you are just saying that, but examiner, before we enter this agreement, we need to find out the true reasons of these issues, because before we enter into this contract, and that's what they want. So you are just simply saying the basis for lower sales vehicles is unknown and needs to be investigated prior to entering this agreement. You are done. That's the point. But then you are saying that, but I had suspected something. So I suspect it could be because people now use more Uber and travel. And I mean, that's very common nowadays. Or to go on a holiday and you don't even bother to rent a car. From the airport, you call an Uber. You then get to your hotel. Then you want to go out in the evening, you call an Uber. That's very common. I mean, sometimes having a vehicle, especially in places like Cape Town, looking for parking spots and just worrying about the car accident and the high accident fee, so people avoid those things. So then they just say, I'm going to use an Uber. So that is now an additional consideration. So this could therefore be two potential considerations.
Rendani, so
Yes.
how do we then structure the answer? Because normally with factors to consider, you would just list what with the January 2025 exam, what is the expectation? Do we give headings like you say problem solving and then you do your stuff, business acumen, and then you write how will the structure look like?
So the structure will be the same. I think what will then be a very interesting aspect in terms of it all is the marking process. And if I am to share how we have it in the APC program. So APC program will then answer the question the normal way, right? But then what we then do, we track each and every point back to the pervasive. We track each and every point back to the pervasive. Then we then say, these are business acumen answers. These are, what do you call it? These are critical thinking responses. These are, and so on and so on. So it will be a normal solution, but we then track back the answers. And it's just now with the APC, it's different because after we've gotten the solution, we combine the points and say, these points talk to this issue, these points talk to this issue, and this issue is a business acumen issue, this issue is 1, 2, 3 issues, and so on and so on. Does that make sense?
You are, but I feel like they're just complicating things with, yeah, I understand.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so and I think I hear your point about complicating things. Yeah, so yeah, there is a little bit of a complication to some extent because yeah, it's like another layer onto it. And in a marks-based environment, this would be really a first for SAICA as well, because and it would be very interesting how then the marking process actually pans out. But it'll be interesting to see. But there's been quite a lot of work in the background to get it here. And going forward, the paper 3 that is currently marks based will be like marked like an APC, because APC, what they do is they don't have marks as well. So you come in and it just says, here's the task. So in a task like this, you will need to answer it and be mindful that, am I hitting business acumen indicators? Am I hitting critical thinking? Because at the end of the day, the problem is in the previous kind of process. You will be ready to evaluate this contract that has been entered. You will focus on the contract to say, the contract says this. Does this make sense? The contract says that, they say this. But now it's like you have to bring everything into context. So that's where now the additional layer of demand, or to some extent complexity, comes in. But
okay, so would you
sure.
say it's
Yes.
advisable in this case to look at the mark plan, like with this question, critical thinking, you have 1 mark. So when I answer the question, I should make sure that I hit each and every point that's on the marking plan.
Yeah.
Like communication skills, like business acumen, problem solving. So I need to make sure that my answer, even though I'm not giving it the headings, I need to answer in such a way that those acumens are integrated in my answer. I don't know if I make sense.
No, you are. you are. And when you start, it will be a little bit, feels like a little bit of a mountain, because yes, you'll
Yeah,
have the
I'm
answer.
thinking about the time
Yes.
as I'm saying it. I'm thinking about the time and like when will I ever get time to do that, because there is hardly ever time to do anything in that exam.
Yes, and the question about time, that's how they answered it, to say, we have now given you more time to think. That's why you are now saying, that's why I was saying the other day, to say they've added 20 marks because now the papers are 120, but they've compensated it with an hour in the exam. And when they respond, why is no longer a mark to 1.5 minutes per mark? They say that because we are now giving candidates more time to think.
We are going to pay for that hour, Shame, I'm telling you.
Don't put it like that.
Yay! But Dad, you don't understand.
Don't
You don't
put it like
understand.
that.
We are going to pay for that hour. I'm telling you. And I'm expecting your 16-page scenario in my head. Like, there's a lot going on.
And they said that we are not going to change this length of the scenario, that the current length is what you need to expect.
Oh.
So, and I think when we go through even the technical, you're gonna see how we are incorporating it in a different way. But I think, as I'm saying, that you're absolutely right, that initially it will feel like you are doing a little bit more. But then what I want you to do is to just reflect, to say that I'm writing this, but now when I look through the lenses of these arguments, do I believe I've hit them all? Did I consider external and internal factors in my response? Oh, yes, I did. So that means this is how I expect to secure the business acumen indicators. Okay, did I question things? If I did question things, then that could be my critical thinking coming in. Then did I consider alternatives? Yes, they told me this, but did I consider that, wait, even though we are losing sales, but could it be that we should not be entering into this agreement? We should be thinking about this. So that's the additional time that I'll want you to invest. And now it will be a little bit of a little bit of a mountain, yeah. But once you have settled in, it will become a little bit better. And maybe while we're still there, so I'm not sure whether you've seen the question that you'll be working through. Where is it now? Where's my thingy? Question bank. Yes.
Sorry. Can I
Sure.
ask
Yeah.
a question? So I hope I don't stretch this topic for so long, but like, how does, like, when you preparation, like when a lecturer is preparing a question paper, I'm just worried about the time factor, because you might, how do they understand that what they require? For example, let's say it was for 5 marks, that it'll take the student about, say, 8 minutes to finish this. Like, how do they realistically gauge on that information? Like, do they have like a sample or someone that tests, that could actually write the paper in advance? Because I don't know how they can actually gauge at the fact to say that, okay, because it's 2 marks, then you should take at least 4 minutes to complete this question. What if the scenario was that technical that you actually had to reason much further than the minutes? So I'm just like thinking, how does it work, so that I can better understand?
Yeah, and it's a fair question right there, right? So number one, the paper, it's prepared by most of the time by an external examiner under the brief of an exam core, which is the IAC exam committee. So the IAC exam committee then commissions a paper, it goes out, then they find, say, industry experts, other academics that are not involved directly in the candidate studies. That's number one. Then number two, They then work through those papers to just make sure that they are aligned to the competency framework and also that they are appropriate given the expectation of the assessment and also the candidate's background, that you are just coming directly from PGDA. They don't assume any working experience because IAC is supposed to be immediately after the CTA. Then after the paper is done, then the paper is independently
Are you guys still here?
Someone removed me. What happened?
How?
I'm surprised. All right. So as I was saying, after Examcore has gotten the paper back, reworked it, they then send it to an external reviewer. An external reviewer, the first one is a technical reviewer. A technical reviewer reviews it for the technical accuracy, as well as again against the competency framework, and gives feedback to Examcore to say, hey guys, you said candidates will be assumed not to be working. Any candidate that has never worked, this will not make sense to them, it's too demanding. And you said the competency framework, you want to assess these things, these are not in there. That means this exam is beyond the scope of what you ask the candidates to prepare for. And this, for me, it's going to take relatively longer in order to do what? To complete. Then Examcore takes that feedback and then works through it and say, okay, we believe, we agree, we disagree with this, and so on and so on. And sometimes it's a very engaging exercise where now the person presents their report and Examcore takes the view, then they debate them, and then they make a final call. After they make a final call, the paper goes to now a cultural reviewer. Cultural reviewer then takes different context, different people that will be sitting for it to say that, oh, okay, what if someone without a strong first language? What if someone that does not speak English as their primary language? What if it's this? What if it's that? So this person then just consider the different views and also different backgrounds of the people sitting for the paper and makes further inputs on it to say that this right here, this paragraph, I don't know technically, but I'm thinking that if now you are saying this is a pervasive skill and everybody's supposed to understand it, I don't understand it. So this might need to be looked into. Then Examcore takes that feedback again. Then the paper goes to what we call a CETA. From what I understand, CETAs are selected from either third year trainees or early qualified chartered accountants. So that would be someone in their first, second year. So that's a CETA. So a CETA is given a full day to work through the paper, prepare for it, and also answer questions or write a report on what they believe, what they believe about the assessment. So that again is taken into consideration to say, oh no, a CETA is saying that this paper was too long for them, given the 3 hours, 4 hours. All right, they raised this particular feedback, but we don't think so. We're just going to keep the paper as it is, or we are going to amend the paper to take into consideration this. Then the paper, you write it. After you write it, it's distributed to all accredited universities. They look at it. They also give their feedback that you guys, you were insane. This level of integration doesn't make sense. This level of integration is too much. This paper was too long. And then it goes to empires, senior marketing team leaders. They process that feedback, and the process is that they are required to respond to each and every comment from all the accredited university. That's what a senior marker does. So they will then every comment, they cannot take it as a given. We are not even allowed to say noted. We have to give a reason what we are doing with the comment. Do we agree with it? If we agree with it, what are we going to do to our memo? Are we going to give more marks allocation? Are we going to reduce mark allocation? And so on. Then all this feedback, the senior markers take them back to Examco. And remember now, Examco has got different feedback. They've got it a external reviewer, the CETA, the cultural reviewer, and now the consolidated view of all the 16 of all the accredited universities. Then they apply their minds. They say, okay, yeah, maybe we see where people are coming from. Yes, let's agree to expand the solution. Let's agree to give more mark allocation. All good. The marking happens. After the marking happens, Examco and senior team members present to the CAPD, which is the pre-qualification board of subcommittee of the board. That subcommittee says, okay, we've noted your feedback, and they do what is called adjudication. So if they then feel that this issue of time is really a reality, and as Examco, you should have seen it and taken into consideration, they have the final say to say, every candidate, this question, their powers go as far as saying, this question should not be considered, this question should be given more weighting, this question should, so that's how, that's their powers before the marks are signed off and say, these are the final marks and these are the results to be published. So it's quite a rigorous process that they've got. So if now really to your question that there is a question that then requires candidates to do what? To have spent more time. And even it could be something, an error in the paper that they will say that this error could have made this candidate spend an extra 10 minutes. They do consider it. And they have to find out to the Science Education Committee of the board, confirm that they did consider all this feedback and this is their final recommendation. And sometimes they just then want senior markers to look at things and there's a borderline process. So it's a very, very rigorous process at the end of the day. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's also a professional judgment thing, and that's why there are those debates to say, yeah, I do agree, I don't agree about this being too demanding or this not being too much demanding and all these things. So yeah. But all right, to just wrap up, is that clear, Charles?
Absolutely clear. Thank you very much. It makes sense why the ITC paper, when you practice it, it looks sort of what you can do. But when you practice, when you write your actual university paper, it doesn't look like it was gone through such a rigorous process. So,
yeah, and I always say that sometimes people don't underestimate they underestimate the resources that SAICA has and the luxury of time. Those two things, university and even ourselves, we don't have, and therefore it makes that assessment quite robust. I mean, in the final paper that I was looking after, they had gone to the extent of saying that they can afford to have two senior team members, and two senior team members, they pay for them quite a lot. And what it just means, it means that you've got two people looking at those comments, sharing feedback amongst each other. When we go present to the Examco, we have to be clear about what we are saying and what we want them to do. And even more, that's why the papers have got very comprehensive solutions, because it's not only an examiner or exam committee's response, it's got everyone's response. And this includes even in Zim lecturers, as long as you're part of the accredited institute or CTA provider, you are eligible to make comments. But all right, sure. So what I was saying is, now what I've done, and this is what I was saying that you're gonna expect from your question banks. So this is also a former ITC question, one of the great ones. And I think sometimes some of the more trickier questions, they were seemingly a little bit ahead in terms of what they wanted. So what you will then find in those questions in the face note, it is one, just a description of what the company is all about. Two, what are the significant events occurring relating to that particular company? Then three, the technical competencies that are being looked into. So in this case, the focus is decision making to increase and decrease or transform the capitals. The coverage area, it's business valuations. Then these are the learning outcomes, meaning that these are the things they expect from you. Just to understand, you'll see it repeating quite a lot, because these are the things that when they send a brief to examiners, they will write and say, examiner, please set a paper that deals with this learning outcome. That's how they do that brief. So the examiner, if then you find a valuation question, they will have had these learning outcomes for them. Then they will need to also want examiners to indicate which PVAs the examiner is assessing. So in this question, you're going to find is business acumen, Z1 and Z2, decision acumen, Y1 and Y2, relational acumen, X1. And what I've then now done, based on the responses and the question itself, I've then ended up having 104 marks for technical competence and 16 marks for PVC. So then in terms of the actual split, you will then see it here. Yes. So now this is the question. It says estimate the work and list any factors, any further information that you may require to finalize your calculation. So calculation of the work could simply be normal technical competence. But for this question to require things you will need before you finalize this calculation, it now requires your critical thinking, because you need to think about which information might not be complete, which information might be subject to further scrutiny. So this critical thinking required here, I then assigned it 2 marks. So you need to then be thinking about the quality of the assumptions that you have, whether they're reasonable, whether they can be compared with something and they still stand. That's what critical thinking is all about. Then here you are to advise, you are to critically comment on the free cash flow valuation. Because it's a written, your communication skills, appropriate style will be important. Again, critical thinking in terms of challenging the estimates will be crucial. But because this is a DCF is built on accounting numbers as well as text numbers. So integrative thinking will be required to bring those other aspects of your technical. So that's what how I want you to think about. So each and every PVA I've put here, I want you to think about, what do you think you are expected to do about it? Does that make sense? And as I'm saying, let's start it and force ourselves to get into the swing of things. Yes, it is heavy when you start, but I wanted to say, come mid-November, you are clear that when you see Y1, no one needs to tell you what Y1 is anymore. You know, and you know the kind of expectation. When you see Z1, Z2, you know that kind of thinking. But let it be what? Let it be a process.
A question, Rendani. So go back to question B.
B, yes.
B.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
The integrative thinking. So
Yes.
that will be the application, I'm thinking.
Yes, but because now you're integrating different aspects to solve or to deal with these
Yes.
critical comments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a DCF will be based on accounting numbers. So some of the things that you might be challenging might be related to the accounting aspect. Or it could be that you are challenging a discount rate using your source of capital, whereas this is a valuation question.
Mm.
Or it could be that the way they've calculated the tax, you don't agree with it. So you are now bringing different aspects. So it means that if you don't bring different elements to this critical review, you might be missing the boat on integrative thinking.
Okay.
Do you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it becomes now a little bit more guiding, because now you're able to say that, wait, it seems that I've just focused on valuation principles. Don't I have anything to say about tax, about source of capital, about this and so on and so on?
And then the 18 marks will automatically be your technical knowledge, even though they, okay.
Yes, yes. But remember that, and this is something that is still, the jury is a little bit out, because sometimes when you raise a pervasive skill, you need to raise a technical, like for instance, if there is a tax issue that you are picking up, it is a tax issue, and whether it's right or wrong, it will then be a matter of what? Part of the 18. So the question is, what if it's wrong? Do we still penalize the candidate again for integrative thinking? Because the candidate did see that there was a tax consideration, but they missed the core issue, or they missed the core principle. So what does that mean? Do we penalize them once, or do we give them credit for seeing the tax issue, but they lose the technical for not dealing with the correct principle? So that's where the jury is still a little bit out, and it will be what? It will be something that we see and get clarity on going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay. Any other question? And what I was saying is in terms of the APC, because with the APC, we don't use marks. We then use what we call marking grid. Some people call rubric. So it looks something like this. So as you can see here, it will be a task, and someone will answer, but what we then do, these are then the possible solutions, or not possible points one could have raised, but each and every one is then done what? Is then categorized. So PEV is your pervasive skills, PVAs. PVAs, accounting, and so on. Then at the end, we then do this as part of the feedback for the candidates. That did you demonstrate good technical skills? Did you demonstrate critical thinking? Did you demonstrate business acumen? Here we are saying there wasn't any business acumen points. Did you demonstrate the ability to change, to be present on the day, good research, identify ethical dilemmas, and so on and so on? So that's what we then do. So here we are very intentional, even in the marking, about bringing those pervasive in. And that's why you guys will be at an advantage now, because it means that by the time you jump into APC, you are not learning these things for the very first time. It's a big adjustment for quite a lot of candidates I see, because they are hearing about business acumen, critical thinking in the context of an assessment for the very first time. But the advantage for you is that you will understand what it means, how to think about it, and the only adjustment will be now you no longer have marks, and that will be some slight of an adjustment, but not as significant as it currently is. But yeah, that is that. Right. All good. So with that, where's my analysis? Where's my analysis? Yeah. So with my analysis, where is it? I just wanted to come back. Yeah, so this was the analysis in terms of just looking at Y3 problem solving. To say that, yeah, what are the problems that the board is looking to potentially solve? Cash problems and idle car capacity. So these were some of the problems. And the reason for this process, because that was another thing I wanted to just clarify in that question, is that now what you need to do is to either commend management or challenge management. So one of the points you will need to say is that management, this to go seems that it will be able to address this problem of ours of cash constraints, or it will not, but you motivate. Like for instance, because as you were saying earlier on that Lancaster has a constraint of having limited liquidity in order to pursue its growth, then to go is proposing that it will give it what? 15 million upfront, 15 million per year, I mean. Then you could say that this proposal from to go will help alleviate this problem of cash flow. That is a mark. So that's why I was saying that there is a difference between what is in the scenario and also unpacking it in a way that will then help you to do what? It will help you to secure more marks. Then another thing about what we are seeing. So they told us that international tourism has been struggling. So one of the things we need to do before we go to any agreement, it is worth saying that, but we are entering into a 5-year agreement. But do we have a 5-year problem? Do you see that issue? Because one of the things about it is that you don't want to use a long-term solution to solve a short-term problem. And the reason why I was asking and motivated is that we are now hearing that the rand is strengthening even against the dollar. Will this not pull international travelers back to South Africa? Because now their foreign currency, no, wait, what does that mean? No. So yes, so that's now, given that the rand is strengthening, what will it do to this potential? Will it now put more pressures on foreigners coming to South Africa, or will it not? Because if we'll continue to do that, then we need to consider maybe this agreement is solving this long-term problem we've got. Then we are hearing that our new minister has been quite active in relaxing these visa regulations. Will it not now help solve some of the problems that foreigners were experiencing? Because if that's the case, then we can't enter into it to go to solve a problem that will ultimately solve itself, because it was a short-term or an external problem that is government related. So those are some of the things that problem solving does, to just say, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And to be mindful that the problem is not always one-dimensional. There are different components to it. But do you see? And also to say, what are the other possible solutions? One, why don't we just sell the cars earlier, or wait until a later time, we sell them at a later time, not just 2 years? And all these things to say, what is it that we are trying to solve? Which problem? Are we trying to solve lower sales vehicles problem, or are we trying to solve idle car rental problem? Because if it's idle car rental, selling earlier might make a little bit more sense than renegotiating to buy less vehicles means you don't have more vehicles that will be sitting under capacity, and you can extend maybe another year of usage on this particular vehicle so that they are not just sitting at a warehouse and incurring holding cost. So there were a number of things that one will need to just think about. Critical thinking, how is this to go a better resolution? So checking whether it's financially viable. You guys mentioned NPVs, IRR, understanding who to go is. Because if people still see those vehicles as ours, maybe they are branded, and now they are now doing some dodgy things out there, then we need to worry about our own brand for the remaining vehicles. And also, do this to go know what they're doing. So these are some of the things that we can just be mindful of. So as we were talking, I was adding some of the points around structure, accounting implication, tax implications, and so on. But yeah, this is just a high level kind of thinking approach that is expected from you. Make sense? All right, I think we can stop it there for the evening. Right, thank you so much.
Wait, Randani, I thought you were giving us a homework on the hotline paper.
Yeah, I've already loaded it. I've loaded it.
I'm thinking because some of us, our registration is not yet finalized. I'm not sure if we will be getting that before the class on Saturday.
All right, so I'll ask the team to share it in the morning, so that you just prepare. It's a little bit of a long one, but what is the expectation? Is the